Hello, thank you again for joining me. So now that we're done making our pumpkin, look at how beautiful it turned out to look like. Look at all these details on it. Very beautiful. So some people ask, how big is this? I have a big bowl of candy over here, and I'm also curious to see how many can fit in this pumpkin. So let me go ahead and stuff all this in so we can see how big it is. There you have it. Look, and you can refill your pumpkin at any time. You can do refill. When it's done, you can pour more in it. So with this pumpkin, that big cup can take 1.5 of it. Okay, it can take 1.5. You see how big the cup is. So let's put this aside and start the lid. Let's see how I'm going to use the green and yellow as usual. That's what I'm going to use. They are in 8 millimeters. So let's start with 5 bead. I'm going to string all these 5 bead on the line like this, and now I have it. This is 5 I have on the line, and we are going to make a ring of 5 bead. Then we have something like this. This is a ring of 5. Okay, ring of 5 bead. Now on my left line, I add 5 bead to it. Okay, this is 5 bead I add to the line. I hold the last one and cross with my right line and pull. And now my right line into the next bead. I pull my right line into the next bead. Okay, now you see this is 6, and we start with 5, and now we continue with 6, 6, 6. So I put 4 bead on the line. I hold the last one, cross and pull, and now this ring to count 6. Now my right line again into the next bead, pull it through the next bead. Okay, now I put 4 bead on my left line again, hold the last one, cross with the right line and pull. Now again I'm going to pull my right line again into the next bead. I put 4 bead on my left line, cross and pull. So now I'm going to put my line through these 2 bead, okay, into 2 bead. 1, 2, 3. That is where our line is going to be. So I'm pulling through 2 bead, and I add 3 bead to the line, cross and pull. Then you have something like this. This is how it's going to look like if you complete this step. Okay, we start with 5 and we go round and make our ring of 6 around the 5. Now my right line again into the next bead. I add 4 bead to the line, hold the last one and cross with the right line and pull down. So now I'm going to pull my right line again into the next bead, this line into the next bead. Going to pull into the next bead. Now on my left line I add 3 bead. I add 3 bead to my line, hold the last one, cross with the right line and pull. Now I'm going to go into 2 bead. Okay, I'm pulling my line into 2 bead, 1 and 2, and the number of bead I'm adding is 3 bead. Cross and pull. Now into the next bead again, I'm going to go through 1 bead over here, and on my left line I add 3 bead to it. This is 3 bead I add to my left line. I'm going to hold the last one, hold, I cross with my right line and pull into the next 2 bead. So I go through 2 bead over here. This is the first one, and here is the second one. So go through 2 bead and add 3 bead to your line, cross and pull. I'm going to go into the next bead. I add 3 bead again to my left line. into the next 2 beads. This is the second one. I add 3 beads to my left line. Into the next bead, I pull through 1 bead, okay? I add 3 beads to my left line. I'm going to cross and pull. Into the next bead again, into the next 2 beads, okay? This is the first one, and here is the second one. I go through the next 2 beads. I add 3 beads to my line. Now I'm going to pull again into the 2 beads, okay? This is the last 2 beads. I'm going to pull my line through. 1, 2, okay? The next 2 beads. So the number of beads I'll be adding, look at where my line is, okay? My line is in 3 beads, and the number of beads I'll be adding to complete this step, 2 beads. I add 2 beads to complete. Now let's move to another steps. I add 3 beads to my left line. Cross and pull. I start this step with 3 beads, okay? Now I'm going to pull my line again into the next bead. And now I'll be adding 2 beads to my line. I add 2 beads to my left line, cross and pull. Now my right line again into the next bead. So this step you'll be pulling our line through 1 bead and add 2 beads to it. So I add 2 beads again to my left line, cross and pull. Into the next bead, I add 2 beads to my line. I'm going to cross and pull. Now we are going to go to 1 bead round this shape and add 2 beads to it to complete, okay? So if you are done, you are going to have this shape like this. Now we are going to continue to another step. I have a line, I'm going to pull through this bead. Pull it through this bead. Now we continue with yellow bead. I add 4 beads to my line. I'm going to continue now with 4 beads, okay? A yellow, continue with yellow, cross and pull. I'm going to pull my line again into the next bead. And I'll be adding 3 beads to my line. Hold the last one, cross and pull. Into the next bead again. I add 3 beads to my line. So this step, we started with 4 beads and now we are adding 3 beads to our left line, okay? So I put my line again into the next bead and I add 3 beads to my line, cross and pull. Now into the next bead again, 3 beads. Into the next bead, I add 3 beads to my line. Into the next, I add 3 beads to my line, cross and pull down. So what we are going to do this step is to go to 1 bead and add 3 all round until you complete the shape, alright? So I'll be doing mine off camera, you to continue to do yours. So go ahead and do yours and I'll meet you back here. So now I'm about to complete mine. I'm going to go through the last bead, okay? I'm going to pull my line through the last bead, this one, and I'm going to pick one from the side. This one I'm pulling my line through. Now my line is in 3 beads. Okay, this is where my line is, 3 beads over here. And I'm completing with 2 beads. I'm going to cross and pull. So now we complete this round 2 and this is how our shape is looking like. Very rounded, very beautiful. So now my right line again into the next bead. I'm pulling through the next bead. Now look at where my line is. My line is in 2 bead, okay? Now I add 5 bead to my left line. Cross with the right line and pull. Now my right line again into 2 bead, this 2 bead. I'm going to pull it through 2 bead. Like this. As you can see closely, this 2 bead and it's in 3 bead. My line is in 3 bead. And now I'll be adding 4 bead to my left line. I add 4 bead to my left line. Cross and pull. I'm going to pull my line again into 2 bead. Next 2 bead. And I'll be adding 4 bead on my left line again. Cross and pull. Into the next 2 again. Go into the next 2 bead. I add 4 bead to my left line. Cross and pull. Now into the next 2 bead again. I add 4 bead to my left line. Cross with the right line and pull. Into the next 2 bead again. Sometimes you have to pull your line hard before you can pull through. So now I add 4 bead to my left line. Cross and pull. Into the next 2 bead again. Pull my line through the next 2. And I'll be adding 4 bead to my left line. Cross and pull. So this step, what we are going to do is to go into, this is how it's looking like, okay? This is how the weave is looking like on this step. And we are going to go through 2 bead and add 4 bead to the line. Into 2 bead, and add 4 all round. So now look at mine, I complete already. So if you count the ring, if you count each ring, it counts 7 in it, okay? 7. And this is how it's looking like. It's not going to be perfect. So with this last step, I'm starting with 3 bead. I'm going to pull into the next bead and I add 2 bead to my left line. This is how it's looking like. Now I'm going to pull my line again into the next bead. Go to the next bead and add 2 bead. So this step 2, we are going to go through 1 bead and add 2 bead to it. And this is how the weave is looking like, okay? This is what we are going to repeat on the edge around the shape. So I'm going to continue to weave. Add 2 bead into the next bead. And this is how it's looking like. So we are going to continue. You see where we did over here, that's the same thing we are repeating over here too, okay? So we are going to repeat the same thing on the lead, round and complete. So go to each bead and add 2 bead to it. We're going to go to 1 bead, round the shape until we complete, okay? Mine is complete and this is how it's looking like. So let's try it on it and see if it fits, okay? It fits perfectly. Now we have to make a stem on the top of the lead. We are going to start with this middle 5 bead over here and I'm going to pull my line through 1 bead. Okay, my line is in 1 bead and I'm adding 3 bead to my line. I add 3 bead to my left line. I'm going to cross with my right line and pull. I'm going to pull my right line again into the next bead. So the 5 bead in the middle, that's what we are using to create the stem on the pumpkin lead, okay? I add 2 bead. I'm going to pull my line again into the next bead. I'm going through each bead on this 5 ring that we made in the middle. That's what I'm using. So I add 2 bead to it. Into the next bead again. I add 2 bead. Now I'm going to put my line into the last bead and the side with these two beads over here. I'll put it through the last bead and the one on the side, so I can step up and then continue the weaving. Okay, I add one bead to complete. So I'm kind of using a cubic right angle weave method to make the stem on top of the lid. So I start with 3 beads again. I'm going to put my line again into the next bead. I add 2 beads to my line. Into the next bead, 2 beads. Pull through the next bead again. I add 2 beads to my line. Okay, cross and pull. Now I'm going to pull my line again, the right line, into the last bead and the one on the side. So this is the last bead I'm pulling my line through, and this one on the side, so I can step up again and continue my weaving. This is how it's looking like so far. Okay, you can make the stem long or you can make it short as how you wish. So let's make a couple on it, and then we stop right there. I start with 3 beads again and I continue with 2 beads. Into the next bead, 2 beads. To the next bead again, I add 2 beads. To the last one and the one on the side. So I add 1 bead to complete this step. Cross and pull like this. Okay, now I'm going to pull my line back into 1 bead. Then I'm going to add 1 bead on my line like this. I'm going to pull through the last bead on the top over here, and I'm going to tie and pull my line tight. Okay, and that is how I close the top of it. This is how it's looking like. So I'm just going to tie over here, tie nice and neat, and then weave the rest of the line into the bead. This line, I'm going to weave it a little bit into the bead and make sure it's well secured enough. Then I can trim it off. So weave it how you like it. You can weave it deep into the bead. Okay, don't just tie and trim it right away, because the knot can unravel and everything will be loose. So weave it a little bit back into the bead before you trim it, so you know your line is well secured in the bead. Okay, so after you tie, just weave your line a little bit back into the bead, like how I'm doing it over here, into the bead before you trim it off. Okay, now I'm just trim it off because I make sure the line is well secured. And let's try to close it and see. And this is how it's looking like, and that is how I create the lid. Look at how pretty and how beautiful it looks like. Very, very beautiful. You can open it, close it, pour your candy in it, and you can refill the pumpkin with candy at any time. It looks so gorgeous and beautiful. So get your bead and make your beautiful pumpkin. Thank you for watching. I thank you for your time. I do appreciate every single one of you for your love and support to my channel. Please like, share, and subscribe. And also turn on your notifications for any new video that I'll be uploading, so you don't miss on it. Until I see you again in my next video, please take care and bye.